Tasty Pelletier Yenishe, Maidish Gijin initially, Billigana Bushichin, Kinla Chitney Dashache, Billigana Dashanella. Welcome back to Resball, where this time we're talking about Rutgers forward Ace Bailey. I almost named this one the most divisive prospect in the 2025 NBA draft class, but that's not the case because with Trey Johnson, it is definitely like, I don't know where to put him. Some people are like, I don't want to put him in the top five. I don't want to put him in the top 10. I even heard some people say I don't want to put him in the lottery, but with Ace, it's like, no, he's just firmly locked into the top three because this guy can score and he showed other skills that I think go unheralded a lot of times. So we're going to get into Ace Bailey right about now. Ace is not his real name. His first name is, I think it's supposed to be pronounced Arius Bailey. I think it's an alternate spelling of a Latin word Arius, which is normally Aerious, but Arius in this case is spelled Airious. So if you know the correct pronunciation, please shout out to me. Ace, originally from Chattanooga, Tennessee, he went to Boyd Buchanan High School there his freshman season, but after freshman season moved over to Powder Springs, Georgia, and was there as a sophomore, junior, and senior. As a senior there in Powder Springs, Georgia, 32.5 points per game, 15.5 rebounds per game, 3.5 assists, 2.4 blocks per game. I mean, that's mega production, even in high school, 30 point per game score. You can see why a lot of people thought he had a chance to get to the number one overall pick, but Ace did not make it there for a number of reasons. Number one being Cooper Flag is just a monster. Some things to track in Ace Bailey. We talk about Dylan Harper's basketball family, and we talk about a couple other players who, like, we know their family was like NBA players. I think a lot of times it goes unsaid with a player like Ace here. Ace's mom played at West Virginia in college. His dad played at Houston, and his aunt is Venus Lacey, who was part of the 1996 Olympic gold medal team. She also played in Greece, Italy, Japan, the ABL, which was a kind of pre-WNBA basketball league for women here in the States, and then did play 2 seasons in the WNBA towards the end of her career. So Ace has just been surrounded by a lot of ball players, and you can kind of see it in his game, and part of the reason why he's been able to develop and grow up in this environment where it's like, man, if I need to ask somebody or if I need somebody to help me work on my game, well, I can ask my auntie, I can ask mom, I can ask pops. They're all ball players. Let's take a look at Ace Bailey's stats. This past season at Rutgers, Ace scored 17.6 points per game, pulled in 7.2 rebounds, dished out 1.3 assists, had 1 steal per game, 1.3 blocks per game, and then 2 turnovers per game. Shooting splits for Ace are 51.1% from 2 point range, 34.6% from 3 point range, and then 69.2% from that free throw line. All of this translated into a true shooting percentage of 53.6%. Inefficiency is going to be the main thing that we're going to talk about. And, like, what do you think of Ace Bailey's lead scorer potential? I think the true shooting percentage is a starting point for that. If you watched film and saw him be aggressive, if you watched the good games where he made a bunch of buckets, and then you go look at the true shooting percentage, like, it should give you pause of like, okay, where is he wasting shots? A couple other things to clock are the defensive rebounding percentage of 17.5%, total rebound of 12.2, and even the offensive rebounding percentage, in my opinion, 7% for somebody who's essentially like the small forward. That's still pretty good. And a lot of the film for me, sure, he's like chasing his own misses and getting offensive rebounds that way, but I think it was still good. You don't see a guy like this normally crash the offensive glass as much as he did, and he had the freedom to do it. But he showed it was a skill that I don't think should go uncelebrated or unnoticed. But a lot of these advanced stats, 27.5% usage, you're like, yeah, that's high, but that's what we wanted to see anyway. This guy with a ball in his hands, 8.3 assist percent to 11% turnover rate. It's like, oof, not much of a passer. And then 1.7 steal, 4.1 block rate. The 1.7 steal rate is like whatever, but the 4.1 block rate, again, pretty good for somebody that you didn't think was going to necessarily be a defender. Some things to track. Let's start with the bad. 38 assists to 61 turnovers. That is a bad assist to turnover ratio. I'm going to argue I think Ace is a better passer than what I think people label him as. If you just see the raw stats, you're going to think, this guy just cares about scoring. He doesn't care about anything else. I don't think that's necessarily the case. Going back to his high school film, I saw a lot of times where he made the right pass and then his teammate just didn't knock it down. This Rutgers team, as I said with Dylan Harper too, outside of those two, there wasn't anybody that was consistent. PJ Hayes was about the only reliable 3-point shooter all year too, so it's like you didn't really have anybody to kick it out to from three. It's you and Dylan trying to play off each other. There's no big man that really like put pressure on the rim where you could pass to in the post or do the pick and roll stuff, and they're gonna get you the assist. So that is part of it. But I mean, it doesn't help when your teammate's Dylan Harper and he had a great assist rate. Somehow those guys got shots, and the Ace Bailey passes didn't lead to assists. Again, I think Ace is a better passer than what the stats say, but I think he's basically like an even type of dude, and he's really good at just making the next pass. And I do think he's a little bit better at getting himself out of trouble. The eliminating part will need to be getting yourself into trouble. Don't get yourself into trouble so you don't have to do these funky passes to get out of it. But I do think he does make the right reads, does need to learn when to pass out of things and not drive into traffic and do things like that. So, again, I don't think the passing is as bad as it seems. The positives, though, 215 rebounds, 62 offensive rebounds, 153 rebounds, 215 total. All of those led the Rutgers team. He was the leader. Ace Bailey was a leader in rebounding at every level, offensive, defensive, total rebounding. That should not go unnoticed. And when we get into the size here, that should also be something to pump up because this was somebody that was supposed to be 6'10". Spoiler alert, he ain't no 6'10". And the other thing is 38 blocks, which also led Rutgers' team. No center on this team, really stepped up and did a lot on defense. It was Ace. Also couple that in with the 30 steals. That's a good combination there. And if you notice the per game stats, it was 1 steal, 1.3 blocks per game. Ace does get lost. There's still a lot of young guy stuff, like not knowing exactly what to do for defense, but I think the desire is there and the tools, the athletic tools are there. Coming into the season, Ace Bailey got the PG comp because people were like, well, he does look like he's 6'9", 6'10". The athleticism does look pretty good. Like, oh, look at that jumper and how high he gets it, says he's that size. But here with the steals and the blocks too was like, okay, maybe that will be thrown together, but let's get it on the size. Again, this is somebody that ever since I've heard about him, everybody talking about him being 6'10". Ace Bailey went to the combine, measured in at 6'7.5" without shoes. I will say this forever. Stop lying about your height. I don't get it. And whoever told people he was 6'10", whether it was Ace himself or other people, like that's just not going to help you. Really, it doesn't change like a whole lot in the evaluation, but it's still the difference between being 6'10" and 6'8" pretty much is what you would probably list him at now. The difference between being like this huge mismatch advantage and being wing size. 7'1.5" wingspan. Let that not go unnoticed, though. That is a very good wingspan. So at least that we got a +3" wingspan. Approaching like big man territory. It's probably the reason. Oh, he got all those rebounds and was able to block all those shots there. And then 202.8 pounds. He does look skinny, but over 202. So we're looking at like 6'8" in shoes, 202.8 pounds with a 7'1.5" wingspan. Again, all of this is fine and good. It's just coming into the year when you're sold that this guy's 6'10", he could be the next PG, and then he ends up being super inefficient. He doesn't end up being 6'10", and then you have like all the passing issues. You're starting to see my point. This is why I said I think he was the other guy I was going full back and forth with of like he's the most divisive prospect, but let's go to the shot chart and see why that's not necessarily the case. Ace Bailey, 66.3% at the rim on 57 of 86 shots. That's solid. That's fine. I think he does want to get to the rim, but he doesn't necessarily have the craft to get there consistently, and I like am saying this hesitatingly because he's out of control. He doesn't have the advanced handle to change gears, change directions. He'll drive there and he'll try and get there in a rush, but he does draw a lot of charges. Like he loses his handle. Sure, he does draw some contact and definitely does get there, but it's like his body is getting there before he really figures out what to do. 49.2% of the paint, 30 of 61 shots. Again, very good. I think Ace has an elite turnaround jumper that he does utilize fairly well. Definitely an advanced move. It's probably his go-to thing when like he gets stifled inside and he goes up against guys who can stop him and are more physical than him. And I do think in the paint, that 30 of 61, a lot of the shots were there. Where it becomes difficult. Let's start with the 3-point shot. For my liking, I think Ace doesn't take enough threes. And really, that's going to be like the big issue and why I have him group with these other two guys in this shot chart. If you're not watching this on YouTube, this is what I like to call the star to role player transition guys. Like they were the man on their team, but you can see them transition in a role player and you can see them transition into being a very high level role player, like third starter, maybe even develop back into being a primary guy with the skills that they've shown. But the safe bet is like with what they can do, I think it's best that we play them as a role player. And then if they can show something else, fine. But they don't need to do that to have a very long and productive NBA career. For ace number one, it's the 3-point shot again. I don't think he took enough of them. 17 of 52 from the corners. Absolutely has to get better as a corner 3-point shooter coming in the NBA. Like that's really probably where you're going to be at, is sitting in the corners a little bit more. So you got to get better with that. And then 29 of 82 threes from above the break, 35.4%. Again, all those are average. But echoing what I said with Dylan Harper last time, the Rutgers team, again, who were the other options? And then Ace played a lot of games without Dylan, too, when Dylan missed time. You also have to take into account that Rutgers team was ravaged by illness. Like everybody got taken out with, I don't want to say it was mono. I forget what it was. It was like the flu or something. Like everybody got it. So that did affect the overall team. And then again, like if outside of Ace and Dylan, there really wasn't anybody scoring. There really wasn't anybody passing. There really wasn't anybody playing like high level defense. So I do excuse at least the 35.4% from three because it's like, yeah, those were a lot of grenades. Those were a lot of like, dude, you have to take this shot because we ran the play for you. And also, like, if you're not scoring, I don't know who else is. If you break this down to the medium zones and trying to find his areas, let me do this, back us up a little bit. If you just look at the mid range, all the mid range, 43.4%, 69 of 159 shots in the mid range. First and foremost, that's a lot of mid range shots. I don't think an NBA team wants to be doing that. I mean, that was the knock on him coming into the year anyway, was like, this guy's a tough shot taker. I don't know if he's a tough shot maker. Definitely loves the mid range and does a lot of stuff in there. Maybe some of it's because he's not physical enough to get to the rim and do those things. I think those questions still persist. Now let's break it down on the medium zone of my spot. That number, 43.4%, is deceiving because when you break it down into left baseline, right baseline, left elbow, right elbow, there's only one area in the mid range where Ace Bailey shot above 37.9%. From left baseline, Ace was 9 of 28, 32.8%, not good. From the left elbow, Ace was 11 of 29, 37.9%. That's okay, but anything under 40%, you don't want nobody shooting that. And then from the right elbow, Ace was 15 of 42, 35.7%, not good. But from the right baseline, Ace was 34 of 60. So on the one hand, this is the shot he took the most, and this is the shot he sank the most, 56.7%. Fantastic in that area. But again, if you looked at just the mid-range numbers, 43.4%, gee, I wonder if this 56.7% from the right baseline is propping up the whole percentage from the mid-range. I mean, yes, it is. It's obviously, I'm being sarcastic here. So I think that question persists of like, why is he taking so many tough shots in the mid-range? Like, why is he relying on this? 159 shots in the mid range to just 135 threes. Bro, you got to change your game. Keeping it real, I had a really hard time with Ace's comp. I kicked around Brandon Miller. I kicked around Michael Porter Jr. Like everybody keeps saying Michael Porter Jr. And I don't know if Ace is going to buy into the 3-point shot like that right away, just because we haven't seen him do it in high school. He was the man. They let him run the show and do what he wanted. At Rutgers, he was the co-man alongside Dylan Harper. They let both of them do what they want. And he just turns down too many open threes and doesn't use his size, even at 6'8". 6'8" with that 7-foot wingspan. Like you still see him have the ability to shoot over the top of people, and he just doesn't do it. So this is the really frustrating part of Ace. And when looking at his comp, you're like, okay, sure, I can still see Michael Porter Jr., even if he's not like 6'10", like MPJ actually is. But he has to buy into that change and stop shooting so many mid-range shots. The other one that I thought about and still kind of think is Brandon Miller. Because Brandon Miller, same thing in high school. I guess that fool, all he did was take mid-range shots, super, like, not physical, didn't really get to the rim, wasn't interested in shooting threes, but then went to Alabama. And if you know anything about that Nate Oates system, like that's, you got to play fast and you got to shoot threes. So he bought into that system, and that's pretty much how he plays in New Orleans now. Is like shoot a ton of threes. I can still do some of my other mid-range things. Average like 17.9, I think, as a rookie. And then this season in 27 games was averaging over 21 points per game, starting to take more threes. You can see that same kind of development track for Ace. But also where both of those comps fall apart for me is the rebounding. I still think Ace remains to be the more physical guy and the more willing defender. I mean, Rutgers gave him and Dylan the keys. They could have very easily just been like, have somebody else play defense. We're not doing it. But they didn't. Both guys committed, and especially Ace. I think Ace really committed to crashing the glass, number one. That just seems to be something he's been dedicated at. I said 15.5 rebounds in high school. I mean, if you go back and watch any of his tape, it seems like he wants to crash the glass always. And then blocks. I think he'll have to become more structured and more disciplined and not just go chase blocks and understand positioning. But again, the desire is there. Whereas with Brandon Miller and with Michael Porter Jr., the desire was not there, to put it mildly. So that's where those comps kind of fell apart for me. And then again, with the size not being 6'10" like an MPJ, not even, I mean, if you want to round up to 6'9" and say 6'8.5" in shoes, or he wears like 2-inch lifts or whatever with some kind of shoes that give him 2 more inches, then he's 6'9" like Brandon Miller. Okay, I guess, but I still ain't down with it, man. So after looking at all this, I still do buy into Ace a lot. I still think he can be a high level role player. There's a desire to be a defender. More is there. I don't think this is somebody that's going to demand the ball. Just as it doesn't seem like he did that at Rutgers, even though they gave him usage. Like, he still try to play within team context. The way him and Dylan operated off each other, it wasn't like your turn, my turn. It was no, we're playing together. So after all that, I think it's Andrew Wiggins. Wiggins is probably the better overall athlete, but I could see Ace having a similar career path where he comes in. I don't know that Philly or San Antonio will end up taking him. I imagine it's going to be somebody more like the Minnesota team that took Wiggins when they traded for him, of like, hey, let's just turn it over to you. We want to develop you and see how far your offense can take us, because we know you can make and create a bunch of offense. We don't necessarily need you to be a playmaker right away. Same thing with Ace. I think Ace also crashes the glass, like in Andrew Wiggins. And I also think like maybe later on in his career, not right off the bat, he becomes a very good defender because he has the tools and he has the desire to do it. But number one is he's wired to be a scorer, and then he figures out the rest of the game later. So I really do think this is like Andrew Wiggins type of player, where yes, if you do turn the keys over the offense and you draft him and you don't really have anything else, I think he's definitely going to get buckets. But like the Andrew Wiggins, I think he's still going to struggle to be efficient, and it's going to take a while to figure out if you let him do that. But I also do think he can transition into being a role player. It really just depends on the young man and what team drafts him and what they want to do with him. Like Dallas, if Dallas did end up getting like number 3 and they had East Bailey, it'd be like, oh, that makes that's just an easy fit then because he can just chuck away threes next to AD. Kyrie's gonna feed him easy things, and then they have all the defenders and stuff, PJ and all these other guys around him, to where he can work on the defensive game slowly, and you can just let him run offense, maybe even let him run the second unit if you wanted to. So it's really going to depend on who ends up with Ace, but I do see the Andrew Wiggins comp probably being the better fit just because the scorer, not necessarily passer, does have the defensive tools, is 6'7" and 202. Wiggins is listed at 6'7", 197, and then has a good wingspan, good athlete as well. Wiggins is the better athlete, but I think the overall package again, where you can give him shine, let him run the offense. He's going to give you buckets, maybe not be the most efficient, but can also easily transition into a role player because of all the tools and everything else. So some YouTube things to look at. Charlotte Hornets account. At this point, I mean, I should just say if you want to go Charlotte Hornets account, go directly there first and see who they've interviewed, so you can get the best audio and video quality on all the NBA Draft Combine interviews, including Ace Bailey. Keandre Hoopinolek had an Ace Bailey breakdown scouting report about a month ago, about 15 minutes, 58 seconds. Go check that out. Floor and Ceiling also has a good breakdown scouting report on Ace Bailey, 16 minutes. Derek Parker has about 12-minute, 37-second one as well. And then all the No Ceilings guys, they've talked about Ace verbatim. All you got to do is type in No Ceilings NBA in YouTube or go to NoCeilingsNBA.com. Check out all their things, just like the Ace Bailey season highlight stuff we got here. So Ace Bailey, a really good bucket getter, man, tough shot taker. Can he be more of a tough shot maker in the NBA? Yet to be seen. But again, think Andrew Wiggins, both in terms of like, sure, it can be the primary guy, maybe not, it might not be the most efficient, might take a while to figure himself out, but also can transition very easily into an elite role player. And Andrew Wiggins ain't no slouch, man. He helped the Golden State Warriors win a title, and he's looking like he's going to be really good for the Miami Heat. Perfect heat culture kind of guy as well, too. So, yeah, thank you so much for listening to us. Tune in next time when we see some more stars to transitioning into role players in the NBA. Catch you next time. I'm going to